Yeah, I just had a kind of mini inspiration and just wanted to share that, you know, all my life I've had a kind of an allergy to fitting in for the sake of fitting in. I would look around and see this style and that style, and it always seemed to be like copies of copies of copies, and and it just didn't do anything for me, and I wasn't good at it either, so it wasn't even like I could fake it. Um, And I kind of resented the fact that you're supposed to look like something. You're supposed to not violate certain arbitrary rules that, God knows who put in place. And I mean, I get that there can be standards and rituals in life, and that's fine. But when it feels kind of fake and oppressive, then it's not so much fun. And a friend of mine introduced me to, well, I was talking about that one time with a friend, and he said, it's like Bruce Lee who said, "My style is no style. I'm not going to just pick a tradition and say that's my style." He's just like, I'll take from whatever I know, whatever I've learned, and use it whenever it's relevant. That's it. Um, and I've thought sometimes about, getting a better background for these videos that I do, or dressing up a little nicer, or whatever. I mean, because I tend to just wear whatever comfy thing I wear generally. Um, and and I'm kind of like, well, maybe am I being even a little bit precious about, not having any style? And whatever. If I happen to be wearing something nice when I feel inspired to make a video, then that's fine too. But I don't know. The larger issue is um, so often when I'm in sort of moments that feel like they might start getting a little bit transcendent. um, my mind goes like, "Oh, is this like that? Is this like X? Is this like Y? Is this you know, insert your spiritual terminology here, right?" And I mean, it's helpful to have some kind of terminology, some kind of maps or guideposts, even if it's vague, even if it's not certain, just something, so you're not just completely feeling around in the dark, because that can get oppressive in its own way after a while, because you're like, I mean, it is possible to find yourself in dead ends and cul-de-sacs that don't really go anywhere, or that don't go anywhere fast. Not that we're trying to go anywhere, but you know what I mean. That just sort of end up in frustration, stagnation without any benefit. But it's helpful in those times to remember, like, this doesn't need to be like anything. It literally cannot be like anything, because nothing is like anything. There's no exchange value. There's no fungibility in this universe. Every moment is utterly unique, and trying too much, or I mean, in the moment at all, really trying to fit into a framework is, can often just snap you out of it. So, yeah, working on implementing that, and just understanding that fundamentally nothing's going to look like anything. And if you're groping around trying to figure out where you are, maybe just consider not doing that. It's just like, you're here, you're nowhere. This is this. That's it. Um, it can feel very ungrounding, but I mean, there's no ground, so that's that. Um, yeah, this. it can help you kind of remember how precious this is too, knowing that it's never going to be repeated ever again. Um, and whatever maps or whatever experiences someone else has, or someone else talks about, or someone else tries to talk about, it's not this. It's not your this experience, moment, whatever it is. It's just not. I mean, you can, yeah, you can try, you can do your best, but ultimately, when you're here, and that's it. There's no like, there's no this maps to this in any precise way. And sometimes, who knows, maybe not in any way at all. Like, there's probably, I'm sure everyone has had an experience they cannot transmit to anyone else in any way. And there's a lot of that floating around. And there's not always going to be an audience for whatever you experience or whatever you realize. Not everything can be transmitted. Maybe fundamentally nothing can be transmitted. I mean, it is true, like I said, that there can be sort of way stations along the path, very rough in some senses. And sometimes you've heard the description, you've had the experience, and you're still not quite sure, and that's just how it's going to be. Um, and even maybe somebody will say like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what," and maybe they don't even know because they didn't have your experience. So yeah, it's there's something very singular, and I don't want to say lonely because I don't. It doesn't feel lonely exactly. It's like beyond the concept of loneliness when you're hanging out with the universe. Because in a relative sense, we need. It's nice to be witnessed. It's nice to have friends and family and all that, and community. In the absolute sense, there's no audience. There's no comparison, and there's no audience. There's no reward. There's no um, graduation certificate. There's no baton to grab. We're just floating around. We have no idea what the fuck is happening. So anyway, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. Inshallah.